Communities come in many different shapes and sizes. They are recognized as groups of friends, families, co-workers, hobbyists, and teams, to name a few. These communities have many different things that can be pointed to that identify their structure as a community. Communities are beneficial to people in many ways, from building relationships and helping others to creating something new and solving problems. Marie Wheel says in her article Community Building, Building Community Practices for the Oxford Journal that community building originates in the development and articulation of a community's shared value and grows into skill development so that groups and organizations can successfully cope with problems of increasing varieties and complexities. When I read this, I thought about my time in the United States Marine Corps and the community that I developed with my fellow Marines. As I reflected on what Will said, I thought about how the language used by Marines is a part of or a contributor to the shared values and skills that we developed as a community. Specifically, I thought about the names and titles that we use for each other and how those could be used as signs of endearment or discontent for each other. I asked myself, does the way in which we label each other and use our language to create new labels contribute to how we function as a group or organization? When I read Baldemar Velasquez's article, Building Community, in the journal Race, Poverty, and the Environment, I was convinced that it does matter. Velasquez states that in society and culture, language is one of the tools we use to convey our symbols and beliefs. For Marines, the titles we bestow upon each other translates directly to the beliefs we hold about the abilities and contributions that each devil dog provides. These titles and terms that are woven cohesively into our daily vocabulary depict our world and our community. New Marines who come into a unit, for example, are called two things, boot or nugget. A boot is a term used throughout the Marine Corps to symbolize a Marine who is new and only has the minimum training. As itself, it is its own title, but it also stands for basically out of training. The terminology becomes so woven into our language that most people think that boot simply refers to that the person is only as useful as the boots on their feet. Nugget, short for new useless guy in training, is pretty much the same thing as boot, but it is a term that also identifies someone as being part of the Marine Corps Air Wing. Other MOSs or military operational specialties in the Marine Corps don't often use this term for new Marines. It isn't really a part of their culture or communities. Though these terms can be seen as derogatory to those who are not Marines, it is a rite of passage in a way for all those who do earn the title Marine. These titles are ones that are dropped once a Marine deploys either to a war zone or on a MEU, which stands for Marine Expeditionary Unit. What is interesting about this language, good or bad, is that it is fully integrated into the culture of the Marine Corps. You will not find these terms in any authoritative manual or document from the United States Marine Corps, but it is widely accepted by all Marines. As previously mentioned, the terms boot and nugget are acronyms, but are used so regularly as titles that they seem to lose their aspect of being an acronym and become a word of themselves in the Marine Corps community. As Paul Justice says in his book Relevant Linguistics: An Introduction to the Structure and Use of English for Teachers, acronyms become accepted as regular words that over time we don't remember their origins. This was obvious to me while I was in the Marine Corps, and it wasn't until I had been in for a time that I learned what those words actually stood for. To many communities, the integration of slang words or acceptance of acronyms as words themselves seems natural to our language. Some in authoritative positions, however, have a different view. Orban points out in Chapter 3 of his book Authorities from the English Language, a very short introduction, that some consider the inclusion of slang words, acronyms, and other terms to be unworthy additions to authoritative repositories such as dictionaries and thesauruses. But our language helps identify who we are, so wouldn't that authority be denying a complete picture of communities and language? For this reason, I would agree with Aaron Smith and Susan Kim when they say in their book, This Language a River, A History of English, that language changes, and this study, the history of languages, means being attentive to the descriptions at any given moment. In the end, it is because of communities such as the Marine Corps that language changes. Sure, the terminology, acronyms, and phrases spoken in the Marine Corps might not be used in the public at large, but because of the influence that the Marines and other communities have around the world and on our society, it does in some ways affect our language as a whole. As we have seen through interactions between countries and trade communities referenced in Bragg's video series, The Adventures of English, it is clear that the influence of communities on society at large does occur and is represented directly in the English language that we speak.